Hey guys, Darkhawk here back with another Marvel Snap deck highlight. So this is part 3 of decks that got me to the Infinite Rank series. It's another season of Marvel Snap, and this time we're in the Guardians of the Galaxy season, and it's a different metagame. So today I'm showcasing my Ronan Draw deck. This is the deck that got me to Infinite Rank from rank 80 to Infinite essentially. The deck I've made is fundamentally based around a popular meta deck type called Control Sera. In this current meta, Sera is a 5 cost, 4 power card which discounts all other cards by 1 energy with a minimum of 1. Sera decks are popular because it has very consistent win rates with strong cards that you can play throughout a match to control your opponent's cards. Sera Control has a lot of tech cards in it, and by tech cards I mean cards that have a very specific purpose. Cards that are not powerful on their own, but by using them for their particular purpose, they have really great value and huge potential to turn the game into your favor. With Control Sera decks, Darkhawk and its associated cards, such as Rock Slide or Korg, which shuffle rocks into the decks, synergize really well with Darkhawk's power to give you a huge advantage. This is the same with Devil Dino. So Devil Dinosaur's ongoing power plus 2 power for each card in your hand, meaning that the synergy around this card involves you drawing a lot of cards into your hand or putting a lot of generated cards into your hand. You can generate cards using Agent 13 or Agent Coulson, which will draw random cards to your hand. So as I was saying, with Control Sera, Darkhawk and its associated cards, or Devil Dinosaur and its associated cards, are very popular additions to the Control Sera deck because Darkhawk and Devil Dinosaur alike are both very powerful cards that can win lanes outright by themselves. This deck plays into a variation of that by using Ronan. Now I feel Ronan and his associated cards are very underutilized cards, but they're very powerful because they can stand toe-to-toe alongside Darkhawk and Devil Dinosaur. Ronan is actually a very powerful card. I think the main reason why he's not as used as often as the other types of cards is that he's slightly harder to play, which is perhaps the reason why he is underused. But due to the climate of how Marvel Snap is changing, I'm going to be outlining the different synergies behind this card and how I've designed this deck. I like to design my decks in a hybrid, non-traditional way, so I'll outline some choices I've made in this deck which are not standard for a Sera Control deck or a Darkhawk Devil Dinosaur deck. Let's first talk about the cards you find in a typical Sera Control deck. First off is Nova. Nova I find is a very strong card in this particular deck, as you want to have a good energy distribution of cards, and having a 1-drop to play on turn 1 is always in your favor. Because you're able to play those cards, you can gain priority at different times as well. Nova is a very solid 1-drop to play, which can be destroyed by Killmonger, and by destroying it, it will provide a +1 buff to all your other played cards. A normal 1-drop has around 2 to 3 power, so buffing this for more than 3 cards when your Nova is destroyed is more than optimal. Next card we have is Armor. Armor is a really nice tech card to include in this particular deck because it's a solid 2-drop. Armor has the potential to disrupt other destroy decks that you play against, as Armor will stop those cards from being destroyed in that location. Just note that if you play Armor first, make sure not to play Armor in that lane so you can destroy your Nova later, or this goes without saying, don't play Nova into your Armor lane, so you can destroy your Nova later. Next typical card we have is Killmonger, another solid, strong control card. It fits naturally into this type of deck, as you can destroy your Nova, you can destroy other 1-drops of your opponent. Killmonger works really well against Zoo type decks, small power cards, and Thanos decks as well, which overload the board with 1-drop stones. In this particular current meta, Killmonger is a very strong card because a lot of people are playing Nebula or Kitty Pryde. We have Kitty Pryde. A lot of people play Sunspot. And of course, let's not forget Iceman. So because a lot of these 1-drop cards are all auto-includes in most decks, Killmonger is a really good card to have to destroy those cards. Next we have Wave. Wave is a really strong card in this meta. So Wave actually got changed in this meta to on reveal, all cards cost 4 until the end of your next turn. This is a big buff, as this means that people can't play the She-Hulk Death Wave combo. So these decks would work around destroying a lot of your cards, playing Wave on turn 4. Sorry, playing Wave on turn 5. And as long as you had destroyed 4 cards, which was very easy to do, they could play Death for free, as Death will cost 4. Which is a really stupid combo, because there were other combos where you played Wave and it didn't work that way. But only Death and She-Hulk did. So thank God that doesn't happen anymore. It was a bit weird that their additional discounts were applied to the card after, when all of the cards weren't like that. So now that Wave's actually been buffed in this way, Wave's a really good tech card, which will allow you to restrict your opponent from playing cards on turn 6 when you play her out on turn 5, or you can cheat out your more valuable cards on turn 3 going into turn 4. So you can play Wave on turn 3, followed by Sera on turn 4, and this will allow you to give a permanent 1 energy discount on all your cards. Or you could play Wave into Ronan on turn 5. So that way your opponent can only play 1 card, and you'll play Ronan, which is your highest cost card as well. Next we have Shang-Chi. Another tech card, arguably one of the best cards in Marvel Snap. Shang-Chi is actually kind of a stupid card. It doesn't take a lot of skill to play Shang-Chi, so he's basically an auto-include in every single type of deck. If they change Shang-Chi to destroy all cards above 9 power in the lane, as opposed to all enemy cards, I think this card would actually be a more well-balanced card, and it would actually take more skill to play this card, so it'll be healthier for the game. I think in terms of balancing, if they maybe removed the word enemy or changed his power to not 3 but like maybe 2 or 1, he would actually be a better card. But right now, Shang-Chi is just too good of a card not to include in any deck, so Shang-Chi is basically a no-brainer. Then we have Enchantress, again another standard tech card in Sera Control, and actually an example of a well-designed tech card that requires you some level of thinking to play. It will remove any ongoing effects of cards, and actually because of this reason, because it's an on-reveal, in this way, it actually takes you some skill to play this card. But played in the right situations, Enchantress can win games just by itself, but you do have to think very strategically, and that's what makes this card fun to play. Now we have Sera. Sera, this is one of the cards that the deck that we have is fundamentally based around, because it allows you to discount and play a lot more cards at the end of the game. This allows you to set up very powerful combos, or allows you to control your opponent in a way by destroying certain cards or placing cards in different locations, because you have a lot more options due to the energy discount. So we can wave it out by playing Wave on turn 4. By playing Wave on turn 3, sorry, and then waving it out on turn 4. That way you'll have 2 turns on turn 5 and 6 to play a lot more cards with your energy discounts. You can actually follow that up on turn 5 by playing Mystique into Sera, and that will give you a 2 energy discount, because Mystique will copy Sera's ongoing effect. The other reason is Sera allows you to play multiple cards on turn 6, giving you a huge spike in power. So you can play cards such as Ronan, following up with Maximus. So typically that combo would cost 8 power, 8 energy, because you have 5 energy plus 3 energy. Because of the discount, this will cost 4, this will cost 2, allowing you to play both those cards on turn 6. The other is playing Ronan followed up by Master Mold, and the Sentinels will be added to the opponent's deck. This will give plus 4 power to Ronan And of course, you can play Ronan followed up by Mystique on turn 6 as well. This will again give you a huge spike in power in two different lanes. You could also play Ronan followed up by Baron, Mordo, and Master Mold. That again costs the total energy cost of 9 would be reduced down to 6, allowing you to play all of those cards. The other reason you can for the energy discounts is that you can play Shang-Chi and followed up with another tech card. This will allow you to destroy a lot of cards in the opponent's lane as well, taking away their power to improve yours and swing the game into your favor. Games that swing in your favor are more likely to net you cubes because people won't expect you to win. This leads into the cards associated with Ronan. And again, I've mentioned it already, but Ronan, we have Ronan ongoing effect is +2 power for each card in your opponent's hand. We're following that up with Master Mold. On reveal, add 2 Sentinel to your opponent's hand. And Baron Mordo. On reveal, your opponent draws a card, set its cost to 6. So these 2 cards alone do allow your opponent to draw cards. But more specifically, these are actually cards that your opponent may not want to play. So the reason for this is Sentinels are cards that add another Sentinel to the hand. So essentially this card won't get discarded from their hand. It will kind of always stay in their hand unless it's specifically discarded or it's removed or something for some other reason. In a lot of cases, this will just stay in their hand and remain as a dead card that they can't play. And the reason for this, another reason for this is playing Sentinels, if they have a hand size of 7, which is the hand limit. The other thing is Baron Mordo, your opponent draws a card, which does seem like an advantage for them, and also is slight advantage as well because it allows their deck to get thinner so they can draw maybe cards that they want. It can also serve as a disadvantage because they can draw a 6-powered card, and obviously setting that card to 6 is just a free card draw for them. But in most cases, if it draws a low-cost card, this is actually bad for them because they're not going to play a low-cost card on turn 6. That would just be the only card that they can play. So in that scenario, usually they have no other choice but to play the other cards. The last card we're going to talk about is Maximus. Maximus is an interesting card, and this is a card that I don't typically play early in the game because I don't want to give the opponent an advantage in card draw. Because card draw is such a powerful mechanic in Marvel Snap, when you only have 12 cards, by the end of the game, typically you won't draw 3 cards. If you can draw 2 or 3 cards, then you've just drawn your entire hand, and that allows you to play your, essentially what your deck was built for. So a lot of the times, drawing cards in Marvel Snap is the deciding factor of whether or not you'll win or lose. So typically with Maximus, I actually don't play Maximus on turn 3 or 4 unless I can somehow get rid of its effect. The reason why Maximus is such a good card though is because he has 7 power, and this is a huge boost in stats for his effect, which you can somehow play around. So the good thing is that we have Sera to discount our cards on the later turns. Or typically if I do play Sera, if I do play Maximus, I'll typically try to play him on turn 5 or 6. And that way, those terms might not matter as much in terms of them drawing cards. The other way to negate Maximus's effect is if they have a hand size full of cards, then they can't, because they can't draw any more cards, Maximus's effect will get negated as well. Just bear in mind that if the opponent has a hand limit of 7 and you see that they have a hand limit of 7, Maximus will draw more cards as the opponents would have played out those cards, and so they'll just draw back 2 more cards. So typically I don't try to play Maximus early unless I've seen that they have a full hand of cards that they can't draw more from. Alright, so potential swap outs for this deck. Cards that I feel are a little bit weak on the weaker side might be, you can replace Nova. You could also potentially replace Baron Mordo as well. And you could replace Enchantress as well. What cards would you swap them out for? Well, the main thing is that you want to swap out for cards that have a lot of value. So Doctor Doom by himself is just a very strong card because he has a lot of value. This is actually a better wave target because for wave, you can play wave on turn 3 and then play out Doctor Doom on turn 4. So this is a really good card to play. There might be cases where when you're playing, you might have leftover energy, so She-Hulk serves as a really good card to play in this particular deck to swap out for as well. And finally, you could play for other tech cards, such as Cosmo. You can play Cosmo if you feel that your opponents are playing a lot of on-reveal cards. Or Polaris as well, because Polaris is just a strong 5-drop that allows you to move the 1-cost drops to a certain location as well. So those are some other considerations that you could add to the deck. Now I'm just going to show you some games to highlight the advantages of this particular deck.
Face the might of Asgard! Mjolnir!